What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA, and today I'm coming at you with my best bets video for UFC 320. We're going to break down all these fights. I'm going to tell you my best bets, what I got in terms of my slate, so we're going to go over all of it. Now, I'm kind of changing the order of it up this week. I'm kind of changing it up. I wanted to go over first what I thought my best plays were, because a lot of times, like, I'll have bets that I like, and let's say I might parlay them up, and, you know, sometimes the parlay might miss, and it might miss by a leg or two, and maybe I had 4 different legs that I liked, but 2 of them end up hitting, or maybe 3 of them end up hitting, and 1 of them misses, but the way I had it parlayed, you know, it might have been detrimental. So I wanted to talk about the different lines that I like, so that you guys, maybe if one of them's really sticking out to you, you might like it, you might find some value from it, or if there's another, you know, maybe there's some different options for you that you might want to consider if you don't like something that I have played personally myself. So I'm hoping this like kind of new format will help you guys. If you do like it, let me know in the comment section if it helps you guys with your decision making, or if it's too confusing, let me know too. You know, I thought this might help, because, you know, sometimes I'll have a parlay that might miss by 1 leg, and I figured, you know what, if I have a bunch of lines, like let's say I have 3 different lines that are all minus 400 lines, and I like them all evenly, you know, but I parlay them all up. Maybe there's one you don't like, maybe you could take that out. You know, I don't want it to affect you guys making money. I want to make you guys some money, and I also don't want to limit it. And especially if it's like, if I have 4 lines I like, and I mix them up in 2 and 2 in 2 different parlays, even though I like them all the same necessarily in this example, one might miss where you might not even like that line, but you might not even want to play it yourself. If that makes sense, hopefully it does. Just in the sense of, sometimes when you're lining up and you're parlaying different lines that you like, you have that level of variance of one might go wrong, and necessarily it didn't need to if you might have switched up the order and changed the different parlays depending on which legs you put in which. Hopefully that makes sense, but without yapping too much, I'm going to go over all the bets. I'm going to go over my favorite lines that I found for each one that were sticking out to me. We're going to have some safe lines, we're going to have some bets that I really like, and we're going to have some Hail Marys. So we're going to go over all of it. But first off, starting off, we got Veronica Hardy versus Brogan Walker. I will say, I think you should just avoid this one. Looking at her line right now, it is minus, what is it? It's 800 or something. Absolutely insane. It's pretty much unplayable. Brogan Walker does have that ability of hers to, you know, take it to the ground. If she takes it to the ground, she is a BJJ black belt. Now, her wrestling is not good. She has a 0% takedown accuracy, so I don't think it will happen. But just for a minus 800 line, you know, I don't want to have any doubts in the back of my mind about a fighter being able to potentially ruin my night by ruining my minus 800 line. You know, if you have a minus 800, you better be damn sure confident in that. So for this one, I really think you should avoid it. However, if you want to go super degen, I don't honestly, I've done this before, and sometimes it pays off. It's either you win big or you could lose big. Now, what you could do is you could do a Veronica Hardy money line in multiple parlays and have it as an anchor piece. So you start out the night with, if you have that 1 leg hit, you're going to get that parlay boost, and you're going to have that 1 leg cash. You could do that, and then let's say the Veronica somehow shits the bed, you could just place those same bets, double down, and try and work your way back up. They call it like an anchor. If you're anchoring a bunch of parlays in one, you could do that. I'm not going to do that. I personally think it's way too risky with this minus 800 line. If it was like a minus 400, 500, you could consider it, because you can always bounce back. I like that this fight is the very first one of the night. You know, I might do this for like a small little parlay, but in terms of like anchoring a bunch of bets, I'm not going to do that. I just had to include that. This stood out to me. But if you want to take any terms of a prop on this one, Veronica Hardy by decision at minus 250 is probably your best bet. That's what I would pick, gun to my head, if I had to pick anything. But I would just recommend avoiding this one altogether. But next up, we got Ramiz Brahimaj versus Austin Vanderford. I actually have all these lines placed in my slate that we'll go over here at the end. You know, I just think for a Hail Mary sprinkle, I guess first off we can talk about Ramiz Brahimaj by round 1 knockout is plus 2,000. The only time Austin Vanderford has lost, they've both been round 1 knockouts. And Ramiz Brahimaj has not won a fight in the UFC that's gone outside of the first round. You know, I think Austin Vanderford's grappling and wrestling is too high of a level for him to get submitted in the first round by Ramiz Brahimaj. We've seen Ramiz Brahimaj knock out guys like Mickey Gall. I think he could do it to Austin Vanderford, and this is more so just a value play for me. You know, I would not rate this line as a plus 2,000 in terms of the odds and the probabilities of Ramiz Brahimaj getting the round 1 knockout. I just don't think it's there. Now, that's a little bit of a riskier play. You know, it's the plus 2,000. We'll talk about that in my slate in terms of what I have on it, but you could also do the Ramiz Brahimaj round 1 only, meaning if this fight goes into the 2nd or 3rd round or to a decision, as long as it gets out of the 1st round, no matter what happens, you would get a refund on your money entirely. And I think for plus money, I think Ramiz Brahimaj is the much more dangerous guy early on. You know, I think if Austin Vanderford, if he wins that 1st round, he's just going to be wrestling. You know, I don't think he's going to be all super dangerous on the ground. I don't think he's going to submit a guy like Ramiz Brahimaj, and I don't think he's necessarily going to be able to knock him out either. So I have a little bit of action on both of those. Obviously, the plus 2,000, I just have a tiny little sprinkle. I got a quarter unit on the Ramiz Brahimaj round 1 only. We'll talk about it at the very end. And then Austin Vanderford, I actually have a small bit of action too on Austin Vanderford. I think if he's able to drag Ramiz Brahimaj out, we've seen him struggle in the the grappling and wrestling against guys like Temba Grimbo. We saw he was really able to control him and wrestle his way to a decision win. So I think Austin Vanderford, he's an Alaskan 2x state champion wrestler, very high level wrestler. So I think if he can just take it to the ground and really drag this fight out and make it ugly, that's his way to win this. And you're basically taking a minus 300 money line and cutting it to a minus 135 line. So I thought that's where the value's at for me. So I have all these in my slate. We'll talk about at the end, like I said, but I think there's some good spots here. I think the value is there. Next up, we got Chris Gutierrez versus Farid Basharat. This line is getting so damn wide for Farid Basharat. I don't think there's a ton of value on that. However, I will say if Chris Gutierrez is able to make it even remotely close, I don't mind the plus 7.5 alternate spread at minus 160. That means one judge, if this goes to the scorecards, and it's the over 2.5 for this fight is extremely high. I'm trying to see what it is. It's minus 330. So it is very, very, very likely going to go to his scorecards, and all for that plus 7.5 spread to hit. You got 3 judges. They have their own scorecards, right? You just need one judge to give him 1 round. That's all he needs. The other 2 judges could score at a 27-30 against him, but one judge could just give him a 29-28 loss on the scorecards, and that line would cash. So for that line at minus 160, I don't think it's terrible value. Chris Gutierrez is decently durable. If he doesn't get submitted here against Farid Basharat, he could definitely cash that line. And I think he's a high-level fighter. He's not bad. He's been able to hang in the UFC. He's beaten good level competition before. Yes, he struggles a lot with the wrestling and the grappling, and I think he does lose this fight. But in terms of the value, minus 160 is not bad. I think that's a very good line. I think it's very playable just for him to get 1 point on the scorecards, and it's almost guaranteed, not guaranteed, but it's a very high likely that this fight goes to the scorecards. I think the value's on that play. Or on the other hand, on the contrary, if you think Farid is just going to run right through Chris Gutierrez and just absolutely wet blanket wrestle fuck him for 3 full rounds, you could take his decision prop at minus 180. I have that highlighted with the medal. Sorry, I got this little on the side. I got my favorite play. I put a little medal emoji next to which lines I thought were my favorite. Honestly, though, the more I look at it, you could argue for the minus 160, this is actually the better play in terms of the value. Either or, though, they're about the same line. I think they're both decent plays. I personally don't have anything on them yet, but I do wanted to put them in here because I do think they're decently good value. Now, next up, we got Macy Chasson versus Yana Santos. Now, Macy Chasson, we saw her. She's coming in overweight. She didn't want to make the weight cut. She did not want to lose those extra pounds. I think it was intentional. I really do believe that it was not a health issue for her. I think she genuinely just does not want to cut the weight. She wants this extra advantage. And for a 2-1 money line, I still think it's wide. Don't get me wrong. I am not touching this. I'm not touching this. I just think if there's any value in terms of if I had gun to my head, if I had to place a bet on this one, I probably would take Macy Chasson money line at minus 210. Or if you have faith in Yana Santos, you think Macy Chasson really just isn't all that great, you could take her plus 3.5 spread at minus 140. It's really not decent value, or it's not bad value. It's pretty decent value. I'm personally not going to play that. There's a chance that Macy Chasson is able to just really push Yana Santos up against the cage, control her against the cage. She's going to be the bigger girl. Obviously, she's going to have the extra weight, so she could use her physicality. Maybe she gets it all. Maybe she gets a 30-27 unanimous scorecard. So I don't know. This one has me a bit worried. If I were you, I would just completely avoid this one. I would not put any action on it. I am not putting any action on this, but I just wanted to put it in here in terms of one bet for each one. But next up, we got Punahele Soriano versus Nikolai Veretennikov. This is not really a whole lot of value here. Honestly, if you're going to put anything, I would do Punahele Soriano money line, and I would just parlay it up. It's a nice, with 345, I do think that line is a tad wide. However, I think it's good value in the sense of if you could just parlay it up with one other leg, you could have a nice 2-leg parlay. I think that's where the value is. It's honestly a good spot if you like other fighters on this card. You could easily parlay it up with just a little 2-legger and get some decent value. So I think that's a decent parlay piece. I'm actually considering it. I don't have anything on it right now, but honestly, might have to do a little 2-legger with it. I do like that line. I do like Punahele Soriano. I do think he wins this fight, so I like him in this one. Next up, we got Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Muniz. Now, I think Andre Muniz is just not that good. I like Edmund Shabazian. I think he's young. I think he's improving his game, and I think he's going to come in here and kick Andre Muniz's ass. It's just a matter of how he does. Now, if you look at the money line, minus 325, it is a bit wide. I get it, because it's like he really does. He could win a decision. It's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. We saw it against Petrosky. He can go to a decision if he needs to. But, I just think his real main win condition here is to get that knockout. As you can look, minus 325 for the money line. But if you look at the knockout prop, don't do it as a Don't do it as like a single. If you do like a same game parlay, you get much better odds for this. I should have included this as a same game parlay because it's not actually a single in terms of just a winner in method. This is a same game parlay in terms of that minus 160, and same with the minus 120. They're both same game parlays. For Edmund Shabazian to win it by KO in rounds 1 or 2 at minus 120. Edmund Shabazian does struggle a bit with his cardio, so I figured, you could get a little bit more risky and play that minus 120 because you could figure, okay, if Edmund's not getting it that early, he's probably going to lose some steam in his punches, and he's probably going to slow down a bit. He's going to have less power. The chances of him getting that knockout just go down and down and down and down the longer that this fight goes on. But, I think the best value, you could probably just parlay up Edmund Shabazian because he could still win a decision. We literally just saw him go to a decision against a chinny wrestler and Petrosky in his last fight. So, he's shown us that he's not necessarily guaranteed to get a knockout. So if I had gun to my head, I would rather just parlay up Edmund Shabazian money line at the minus 325. You could play it. It's just kind of like a Punahele Soriano. It's good enough value to where you just put it in a 2-leg parlay with someone else that you like. Guaranteed value there. I do like that spot. I might have a little something on his KO prop because I think for minus 160, that is his main win condition. I think he can chin a guy like Muniz, so I probably will have a little sprinkle in there too. Maybe the round 1 to round 2, honestly, that might be worth a sprinkle. But in terms of right now, I don't have anything on it. Next up, Patchy Mix versus Jacob Wicklax. Now, I like Patchy Mix a lot in this spot. The more I look at this, he's probably one of my favorite lines in terms of the betting. I think he just has a clear-cut advantage. This fight was made for a reason. They're bringing in this guy from KSW. They're giving him a nightmare matchup in Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix has been able to out-grapple guys that are much better than Jacob Wicklax. Jacob Wicklax is going to split decisions with the guy who's 10-4. Nothing from Jacob Wicklax has really stood out, and we know Patchy Mix has gone against high-level guys. He's already got his UFC debut out of the way against a high-level competitor where he really shit the bed, but it was on short notice. Now he has a full camp to prepare against this guy who's really not that good. Stepping up on, not short notice, he's had a full camp, but stepping up on his UFC debut from a different promotion. They don't want him to win. If there's any BS to go happen on the scorecards, best believe it's going Patchy Mix's way. I think he gets it done. I just think he's better everywhere. Maybe not in terms of pure striking, but Patchy Mix after his last fight, he's going to have that cardio. Now, he's not going to be worried about gassing out like he might have been against Bautista, where he was taking it a bit slower on the back foot, not really willing to engage as much. In this fight, I think he's going to go full blazing. I think he's going to run. I don't want to say run through Jacob Wicklax. He could submit him. He could knock him out. He could go to a decision. That's why I don't really want to play a prop in this one. I don't want to really take the knockout or the sub or decision because it could go either way. This guy Wicklax, he's been finished in all of his losses. I think 2 by knockout, 1 by submission. Patchy Mix isn't really a knockout guy, though. He's more of a submission grappler, obviously, so he could get the submission, but for the line, I think it's like plus 140 or plus 180. I just don't really want to take the risk on that. I'd rather just parlay his money line up. Or, I will say, though, if you think Patchy Mix is going to get a finish, if you like his submission prop or his knockout prop, you could just take the minus 3.5 spread. That way, if it goes to a decision, he could still have a dominant 30-27 scorecard across the 3 judges, and that line would still cash even if he doesn't get the finish. And at minus 150, I think it's good value. That's probably what I would play if you're itching to get a little bit better value and you don't want to take just a straight up money line in a parlay, you want a single, I would just take the spread on this. But next up, we got Daniel Santos versus Jusang Yu. Now, this was really tough. Personally, I don't want to bet this fight. If you do, though, I would say that the value is definitely on the underdog. This seems like a underdog situation, dog or pass, in terms of the bets, in terms of the value. I think Jusang Yu with the extra weight is going to help him. Santos is really not that big of a guy. And against Jusang Yu, who's a pretty big-ass dude, I think the extra weight is really going to help him in this fight. So if I had gun to my head, if I had to play something, I'd probably just keep it safe. I'd probably just play the Jusang Yu plus 3.5 because he's durable enough to last. He could get submitted. I don't know. I think as long as he can keep it on the feet, he can be very competitive. So I do like the plus 3.5. If I had to play any bet, I would place that one for minus 180 in this fight. You could just take his money line, though. If you're really chasing something, you could do plus 125 on Jusang Yu money line. I'm just not going for it. I'd rather just sit back, kick my feet up, and watch this one. I think it's going to be a banger of a fight, so that's why I don't really want to put any money on it. But next up, I do have some money on this one. Ottavia Gatier. I like the lines for this. I'm getting a little bit sneaky. You could say a little bit greedy, but I really think Ottavia Gatier runs through this guy. I was watching Tristan Vines. I was watching his tape on YouTube. Look up this guy's knockouts. When he gets knocked out, his chin is dust. His chin, when he gets put down, he goes out cold. It is like absolutely insane. This last knockout or 2 knockouts ago, he's fighting this Russian Khabib clone type of guy and pretty big guy, and he just flatlines him. And Tristan Vines hits the deck, and he's just like a dead corpse on the ground, face forward on the mat, like no movement. They can't even wake him up. And he's going against the guy of Ottavia Gatier with even more power. And now he's stepping up on short notice. UFC debut? No, he's going to get flatlined. So I was looking at the props for this. I was getting a little bit cheeky. I'm not going to lie. This could either age like fine wine or it could age like piss or milk. It could go either way. I'm getting a little bit greedy on it just because I really do think it hits. I actually do have this prop played. It's a same game parlay. Gatier via KO in under 4.5 minutes. Same game parlay, minus 225. I have this played. Now, because I looked at it, I was like, the round 1 knockout prop is minus 360. I'll take an extra 30 seconds. I mean, literally a 30-second difference. You're going from minus 360 to minus 225. You look at Gatier's recent fights. Jose Medina, who has a damn good chin, he was able to put him out in under 4.5 minutes. He ran through Robert Valentin. I mean, even he did go to a second round against the grappler. I forget the Asian guy's name on Dana White Contender Series who was able to wrestle him for the first round. So I was looking at Tristan Vine's tape and I was like really looking at his recent fights. I was trying to say like, okay, how good is his grappling? How good is his wrestling? I forget what fight it was again. Let me pull it up for you guys really quick, but he was fighting this kid, this super young kid at the time, and they're going tit for tat with the wrestling. I'm like, Tristan Vines can't even out wrestle this like 21-year-old kid who really didn't even look that big out there. Gatier is a massive human being. It was Shlomo Boyd back in May 7th of 2022. I just watched this fight. I'm like, this kid's 0-1. He's 25 years old now, but at the time he was 22. He can't even barely out-wrestle this kid. I mean, yes, he got to a couple dominant positions, but he still wasn't even able to finish him. He wasn't able to remain on top. He wasn't able to maintain top control. And against Gatier, who's a physical specimen, we've seen Atiba. That's why I'm confident in him, because with Atiba, we've seen his abilities tested. We know he has nukes in his hands, obviously, but now we've already seen him go against the wrestler who's able to take him down. He didn't panic in that situation. He was controlled, he was calm and collected, got back up, and eventually knocked him out. And that was the thing too, that guy in the Dana White's Contender Series, he had a full camp and he was a wrestler. That's what he wanted to do. Tristan Vines is just kind of just all around jack of all trades, and he just has a huge chin problem. The Asian dude at least was eating some bombs at first, so Tristan Vines is going to bed. Now, you could play a little bit more safe. If you want to parlay up Gatier at whatever the hell his money line is at, like minus 1,800, if we're being smart here, if this was like an IQ test, that would be like the hugest red flag, like zero value. I just am that confident in Gatier. I just don't think there's any hole for Tristan Vines to expose. We haven't seen any problems with Atiba's chin. We haven't seen any problems with his cardio. We haven't seen any problems with his grappling. Now, we did see him. His one loss was years ago when he lost a decision. I'm not worried about Tristan Vines stepping up on short notice. It's just mainly the chin problems. If Atiba touches his chin at any point, it's over. I know I've rambled about this enough. The lines kind of suggest what it is, but I do like this line. I did play this. I do have a unit on this line. You could parlay up the round 1 knockout at minus 360. I'm just kind of risking it for the biscuit. You know, I'm taking a little bit extra risk. I do like the minus 225 line. It's kind of calling my name here, so maybe I'm just getting greedy on it, but I do think it's great value, and I do want to play it, and I already did. You could get a little bit more safer, though. You could take maybe Tristan Vines. There's a reality where he has some grappling success and is able to survive to the second round. That could happen. I really don't think it does, but it could happen. So if you want to make it a little bit more safe, you could do Gatier by knockout and under 1.5 rounds. You could always do that. Minus 475 at that point. You have to parlay it up, though. So play it how you want. I'll tell you guys how I play it. We'll go in my slate, but I'm risking it for the biscuit a little bit. But next up, we got Abus Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer. I like Joe Pyfer on the spot a lot. I have him parlayed up in my slate that we'll talk about at the end. Minus 250. I think it's a good spot. Nice little parlay piece. You can get some real good value with two-leggers, a little two-legger parlay. So minus 250, I like that. You could get a little bit greedy and go for the knockout prop at plus 120. You know, I'm just personally not quite there yet. You know, I do think the value's there. I do think it's pretty decent value. I'm not going to lie. You know, maybe later tonight, if the bets are hitting, I might put a little quarter unit sprinkle on a Joe Pyfer via knockout, because I do think the value's there. I do like that value. If any prop on this whole card, I would do that. And you know, I would look in your sports books too. They're offering a lot of like promos, like little bonuses, like odd boosters. Joe Pyfer via KO with a little % boost on it might be a good play for you guys. I will say I do like that. But anyway, we'll talk about this in the full slate. But I got Joe Pyfer. I like him a lot in the spot. I think he gets the job done. Now, next up, we got Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Zalal. Yusuf Zalal money line is absolutely shot. I really don't think there's any value in that at this point. You could take it by decision. I don't think he's knocking out Josh Emmett. He could submit him. There is a realm of possibility. So I can't say this is my favorite line, because for minus 200, I want to be a little bit more confident that he could be able to just take it to a decision. He could submit Josh Emmett in this. There's always that chance. So I honestly don't mind, though. If I had to pick one between these two, I almost would rather take the Josh Emmett plus 7.5 spread. We saw in Yusuf Zalal's fight against Calvin Kattar, he easily could have got a 30-27 across the board, but he took that third round off. It was like he didn't want to risk it. He didn't want to take extra damage, which is really good when you're betting on his money line. But that kind of opened my mind up to, okay, maybe a Josh Emmett plus 7.5 spread could be very good value for minus 200. We know Josh Emmett is extremely durable. I don't know how the hell Ilya Topuria did not get him out of there. And Yusuf Zalal just doesn't have that same level of power, so I'm not worried about the knockout. But the thing is plus 7.5, you know, who's to say Yusuf Zalal doesn't win clearly in the first 2 rounds? He's up 2-0 clear as day. Third round, he tries to take it off. He's like, screw that, dude. I don't want to get hit by nukes by Josh Emmett. Fuck that. I'm just going to run around the octagon, let him come back. That's exactly what happened with Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar doesn't have near the power of a Josh Emmett. And that's the thing, too. You know, Josh Emmett in his fight against Lerone Murphy, he was able to land some takedowns. You know, he was able to make that fight closer than it was. I was looking at the scorecards. It was closer on the scorecards than I thought it was originally. And that made me think, I was like, okay, if he's able to do that against Lerone Murphy, you know, Lerone Murphy is obviously a very high level talent. He made that fight a lot closer than it could have been. I think he definitely could do the same thing against a guy like Yusuf Zalal. So for plus 7.5, he just has to win 1 round between the 3 judges' scorecards, and it just has to go to a decision. Or he wins the fight. I mean, anything in between that, and this line will cash. At minus 200, I don't hate it. I actually really do think it's decent value. You could even play it as a single. You could parlay it up, whichever or you could, if you really like Yusuf, oh my God, Yusuf Zalal. If you really like Yusuf Zalal this week, you could just take him by sub or decision. I would be extremely surprised if he knocked out Josh Emmett. I would be borderline mind blown if that were to happen. So you could cut that minus like 5, whatever money line down to a minus 400. IQ-wise, not the best decision, but if I had to parlay him up, I would rather just take the sub or decision line because you can just make your odds pretty decently nicer. But in terms of like the brightest, like the best decision making, it's probably not there. The best value, in my opinion, would probably be between one of these two. You know, I would rather play the plus 7.5 because I think there's more of a chance that he could just do some dumb shit. And there's always the chance, you know, in terms of Zalal doing some dumb shit or just letting up in that last round. And there's always the chance too, you know, Josh Emmett could land the nuke. He could hurt him. You can't just rule that out like, oh no, there's no way that could ever happen. That could happen. Zalal has great durability, but it could happen. I can't write it off. So in terms of this, you know, I'm really not looking to play a whole lot on this. I might have a little sprinkle on Josh Emmett plus 7.5 alt spread. Might have a little sprinkle on Zalal by decision. But between the two of these, gun to my head, I'd rather take the Emmett plus 7.5 alternate spread, but that does it for this one. As of right now, I don't have shit on it. So next up, we got Yuri versus Khalil. We'll talk about, there's one line I want to talk about when I go over my full slate here, but in terms of this, you know, I kind of like the little, like, the individual props on this fight. You know, like, you look at Khalil Roundtree, first round only. I kind of like this. For plus 205, Khalil Roundtree has a good chin. You know, if anything, I think if he comes out guns blazing, he could get caught here. And I don't think Khalil is going to get clipped in the first round by Yuri. I just don't see that happening. Gun to my head, either one of these guys, I think this line should be completely flip-flopped. I think if anyone's going to get starched, knocked out, it's going to be Yuri getting knocked out in the first round. Now, there's the chance that Yuri could drag it on. You know, maybe he starts going for takedowns. He's coming into this fight with extra size, and that tells me, all right, he's trying to be physically dominant in this fight. He really is going to need to rely on his strength, kind of just wear Khalil out because he knows Khalil does have the cardio issues that he's had in the past. So I honestly also don't hate Yuri Prochazka decision only. This line completely flipped. When I made my first full card breakdown video on Monday of this week, this line was minus 180 for Khalil. And earlier today, it was like minus 170 for Yuri. It completely flip-flopped, and now it's evening back up. Now it's Yuri minus 125 decision only. I actually like this line. I think if you like Yuri this week, I would play this because his money line at 2-1 favorite is absolutely absurd. Zero value on that. Like, it's just absolutely stupid. Well, I would never play that. But if you take the decision only prop, Yuri's going to be the better grappler and he's going to have more cardio. He could just grapple fuck his way to a decision here. I know Yuri doesn't do that. He might do that early against a guy like Poatan, but then he kind of just throws all caution to the wind later on as the fight goes on. I get that reality is totally live, but if either of these guys is going to be able to dominate the other in the grappling, wear this fight out, and make it to a decision, I think Yuri would probably win the decision. I like this line. I think it's probably perfectly paced. You know, maybe Khalil's able to just point fight his way to a win, landing the bigger shots. He could win a decision, but I think if Yuri were to grapple heavy, he could really use his cardio as a weapon against Khalil, and I think he could win a decision. So I don't hate this line at all if you're going for Yuri this week. Or I also don't mind too, Khalil Roundtree KO only. I mean, if we're saying either of these guys have more power, I mean, it's not even close. I talked about it. In terms of their knockdown ratios, Yuri's is 4-3, meaning he's landed 4 knockouts, or knockdowns. He's been knocked down 3 times. Khalil's is 14-2. Khalil has the better chin. He has more power. and you're landing this line of who's going to get knocked out, and you have Khalil as a 2-1 underdog. It's just completely stupid. It's completely stupid. I don't get that. If you wanted to put it at a coin toss, valid. You know, Yuri does have that volume, and if Yuri hurts you, you're screwed. I mean, he's going to just absolutely pounce on you. And that's the thing. He's not starching, knocking guys out. He'll wobble them, and then he won't give you the chance to recover because he's just wailing a million shots at your head. So if you do like, if you think that Khalil has a chance, I honestly think this is probably the safest bet because it's close to the money line too. Like the Khalil money line is plus 170, I believe, as of right now. So at this point, I'd rather just take this in terms of the Khalil money line, because worst case is maybe it goes to a decision. Maybe for whatever reason there is a submission. I don't think that would happen, but maybe it goes to a decision. You get a refund on that. You get played a little bit safer. Now, Yuri could knock Khalil out. I wouldn't be surprised. The other line I could add on here too is if you're really confident in Yuri to get it done this week, you could always take his knockout, the second or third round knockout. I don't hate that at all. You know, I don't think he's going to knock Khalil out of there in the first round. I think if he were to get a knockout, I guarantee you it would be second or third round. You know, I just can't see a first round knockout for Yuri. I just don't think Khalil would wither that fast. I don't think he'd be able to hit him with anything that damaging. Could be wrong. This could age terribly, but just in my opinion, if I were to take the Yuri knockout prop, I would take the round 2 or 3 knockout prop. Just personally, you know, I take a little bit extra juice on that. But next up, we got Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. I really like Corey Sandhagen plus 13.5 alternate spread. I've been talking with my buddy about this. This is one of my favorite spots. Now, full disclaimer, I love placing this bet against Merab because guys always have that chance, and I think it's a great parlay piece because Merab's really not that dangerous. I play it all the time. I played against actually no, not with Umar. The last 2 times I did it were both fights of Sugar Sean. And I won't lie, it's 1-1 with Suga. You know, it was 1-1. I was really surprised to see him get submitted, and I don't think he submits a guy like Corey Sandhagen. And all this, for this 13.5 line, you just need him to win 1 round. I believe the math works out on 2 scorecards. It could just be 1. Wait, no, it's 5, 4, 3. I think it's just, I believe it's 1. Yeah, no, it's 1. It's 1. And then the 9.5 would be, sorry, you guys can see this, the plus 9.5 would be he'd have to win a round on all 3 judges' scorecards. So the risk versus reward. Now, I will say, in terms of the value, I am personally playing the plus 13.5, and I'm parlaying it up. We'll talk about that in the slate. But if you just want to play it as a single, I think the plus 9.5 for minus 160 is a very good value as well. That's why I put my metal by it in terms of like, probably best bang for your buck is this. I'm just playing it a little bit more safe with the plus 13.5. But I like them both. You know, I do think Corey's going to make this fight competitive. I don't see Corey getting finished, and I see him picking up at least a round. You know, I would be very, very surprised if Merab 50-45s Corey Sandhagen. I would be extremely surprised about that. Now, there always is the chance of a 10-8 could get fucked on a 10-8. There is that possibility that a 10-8 could fuck us up here. However, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to 10-8 him. I think it's going to be likely 10-9 rounds. Corey, if he lands one big shot at any point in these rounds, if he hurts Merab, he could easily just pick up a round just like that. So I really like this spot a lot. So we're going to talk about it in terms of the full slate here in a second. But finally, we got Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. Now, I'm looking at this one. I think the value's honestly on Magomed Ankalaev. We beat him once. Now, statistically, if 2 guys have a rematch, whoever won the first fight wins 70. They win the rematch. The same guy who won the first time, they win the rematch 70% of the time. It's tough to go against the statistics, and I just think Ankalaev is a bit more well-rounded than a guy like Alex Pereira. You know, in terms of the wrestling, it's not even close. Yeah, Alex Pereira was able to withstand the wrestling pressure in their first fight, but even Ank was saying he had a shoulder problem. He wasn't able to wrestle like he wanted to. If that was true, and if he's fully healthy for this fight, I do worry about Pereira a lot. So I'm probably going to have something on terms of the Ank money line. Now, I also really like, in terms of the value, I think the best value is probably on the Magomed Ankalaev and over 1.5 rounds at minus 135. I think that line is great. You know, Pereira has not been finished at light heavyweight. You know, he got knocked out at middleweight, but now light heavyweight, he's very durable. And I think, yeah, he got hurt once or twice in his fight against Ank, but he still went all 5 rounds, looked damn good for the most part when he was actually going forward, not just being on the defensive for the majority of it. But he can go the distance here, and I don't think Ank is necessarily dangerous enough. Now, there is the chance, if Alex Pereira comes in here, he's like, man, I'm on my way out. I'm just going to crash out and just stand and bang and just go balls to the walls against this guy. He could get hurt. He could get put down. There is that chance. But I think for the value, you're cutting a minus 250 something money line down to a minus 135 against the guy who hasn't been finished yet. I like it. I like it a lot. So I think that's a value in terms of this fight. And then finally, Alex Pereira by decision plus 1,000. If you're looking for a Hail Mary DGen prop, I don't think that's a terrible. I mean, they went to a decision last time. It was closer than people thought on the scorecards. I think the bookies they really think that this fight's going to end in a knockout. I mean, they are like more so than the last time. So I personally think it might go longer than people think. But if you think it does, plus 1,000. I think if it goes to a scorecard, if it goes there, I don't think it's going to look this wide. Now, I don't have anything on that yet. I just kind of put it in here for the memes, for a little bit of laughs here, but, it's not bad value. But in terms of my slate, what I got, boom. This is what I got placed right now, making sure you guys can see this. Now, like I said, I got a little bit of action. I do have Ramiz Brahimaj round 1 only, like I talked about. I just really think that's his best shot to win this. That's both of Austin Vanderfort's losses have been round 1 finishes, round 1 knockouts. I like it here for plus 140. I got a quarter unit to make 0.35 units if this bet hits. And then I also have a very, very, very tiny little sprinkle, 0.05 units for Ramiz Brahimaj to be a round 1 knockout. The value's there, man. I'm only human. I'm playing the damn prop. 0.05 units to make a unit, expecting it to miss. But I'm expecting a refund here, minus 0.05 units. I'm fine with that. And then also, I kind of got it. I don't even want to say hedged because I genuinely do just like this bet. I think if this fight goes long, I think Austin Vanderford likely wins because he's able to just wrestle his way to a decision win. So I got a quarter unit on Austin Vanderford to win, and fight starts round 2, same game parlay for minus 135 odds, 0.25 units. So I got a couple plays on this early on. In terms of these, we got a couple parlays we'll talk about. But in terms of the singles, though, I got Otto Bagatier versus Tristan Vines. Like I said, this is either going to age like fine wine or it's going to age like piss. We will see, but I just like it, man. They're teasing me enough. I'm going for it. I'm biting on the hook. I like it. For the Otto Bagatier by KO in under 4.5 minutes. It's so much better than the round 1 knockout prop. You get a little extra 30 seconds. And I think if this bet were to miss, I highly doubt it would come down to the last 30 seconds. And if it does, then screw me. But, I think for minus 225, I really like it. It's just playable enough to have it as a single. I'm taking a little bit of the risk. I'm willing to live with the outcome if this misses, but at the same time, it's just enough value to where I like it. Got a unit on it. Oh yeah, also, last thing I wanted to say, I forgot to point this out, so I put it on here. I was looking at the lines. For all you guys betting on Yuri and Khalil, it's going to be a tricky-ass fight, but I will say, if you look at the lines, they got Khalil 1+ knockdown is minus 165, and they got Yuri 1+ knockdown at minus 135. I would be hesitant considering the Yuri knockout line is let me tell you guys real quick. I can tell you here in 2 seconds. The Yuri knockout line is minus 105, where the Khalil knockout line is plus 330. Huge difference, but they think Khalil is more likely to get a knockdown. I would be hesitant with your bets on this fight. Say what you want about the picks. I would just be hesitant about betting this one because the lines are flipping. They're contradicting each other. Nothing is consistent between the two of them, which is usually a red flag. And it's been a red flag like this all week for these plays. I mean, all these props have been flipping and going back and forth. The money line's getting wider and wider. If I were you guys, I would just avoid this fight entirely. It's really not smart. This is the definition of a dog or pass. I would not put any money on Yuri. Don't think it's worth it. If you do want to play something, I think the value's on Khalil. I'm probably going to have something on Khalil too. I just haven't placed it yet. But yeah, just be wary of this fight. But in terms of else that I do have, the play of the week for this week is going to be Corey Sandhagen plus 13.5 alternate spread tied up with Otto Bagatier via KO. I understand the odds by KO prop is so wide to the point where if we're looking at this from an IQ point of being an intelligent play, it's not even worth the value. However, I just can't see a reality where it doesn't hit, man. I'm willing to lay the juice on it. I'm willing to go against what is probably the smart idea because I'm just that confident, even though on paper, objectively not worth the risk. However, I'm laying the risk because I'm just so confident. This line, I would be so damn surprised if Gautier does not knock this guy out. The only thing I'm worried about is maybe Vines comes in with a grappling heavy approach early on, and maybe he's able to extend it to his second round. That's the only thing because I do have the under 4.5 minutes like we talked about. That's the only bit of hesitation I have is about this prop. This one's going to be a bit of a sweater, but in terms of this one, I just think I took it. That's why I took it vague. I'm like, even if this gets to a third round, I've seen Tristan Vines when he gets knocked out, it's early. They're all within the first round. And when he goes out cold, he literally looks like he died. It looked like there was a death in the cage. And now he's fighting one of the heaviest power punchers in the division. It's not going to be good. Not going to be good. So I like this. My play of the week, I really like this. For the odds, I think it is great value. I really like it this week. super pumped about this one. I do believe it cashes. And then also, I got a parlay Patchy Mix and Joe Pyfer. I really like these guys in this spot. I would say more so, if you guys are thinking about crafting your own parlays, parlay up Patchy Mix. I really think there's a lot of value on him this week for minus 300, just about that. I think that's one of the best parlay pieces of this entire card. So as overall, if you don't like the Joe Pyfer, you want to play something else, I would recommend parlaying up Patchy Mix. Do them with one other fighter that you like. Do a little 2-piece parlay. Maybe you like Merab a lot. Maybe you like Ank. I was considering Patchy Mix and Big Ank. I might have to play that. I'm not opposed. I really don't want to put more than a unit on Joe Pyfer. I don't want to overextend on Joe Pyfer. I'm not afraid to go more than this on Patchy Mix, though. I'm contemplating throwing another half unit on Patchy Mix, parlayed up, maybe with Big Ank, maybe with Edmund. I don't want to do that much. Maybe Big Ank, though. Maybe Big Ank. I don't really want to go Rob, but I'm considering maybe even a Punahele Soriano. Well, that's why I want to get this video out to you guys, because I have this little thing here we'll talk about, just because I need to get this video out. It's almost 2 p.m. for your boy. I want to get the chance to have this video get some type of views before the fights go out, even though I'm not quite done yet with my slate. But that's what I got in terms of the parlays. I got this one tied up. And I placed this parlay super early on in the week. Like I placed it when Gautier was going against Ozzy Diaz. So this line canceled out. Plus 374. Got Veronica Hardy, Fried Basharat, Edmund Shabazian, Yusuf Zalal, Corey Sandhagen, plus 13.5 alt spread, and Big Ank, plus 374, 0.1 units. It was a little bit better. It was like 4 or something before this line got voided. But yeah, just a little Hail Mary parlay got here. And then I wanted to say, though, depending on how the later fights go, because obviously my slate's not completely done yet, but I wanted to say I guarantee we'll have a little bit of action. I got my little guaranteed action here, or I will have a bit of action. I will have something on Big Ank, whether it's going to be a money line parlayed up. I might do a little Patchy Mix parlayed up with Big Ank money line straight up, or I might just do a Big Ank single and over 1.5 rounds as just like a same game parlay. I do like that a lot. I will have something on Khalil, but it's just more so of me wanting to put some money on Khalil. I honestly, if you guys are going to tail any bet, I would just honestly avoid this fight altogether, the Khalil Yuri fight. I would just avoid it if I were you guys. But I'm probably going to put some money on the Khalil via first round only decision, or any other result, no action. I'm also considering the Khalil knockout only prop, decision or submission, no action. That's going to be the most likely what I put anything on. I might do a little crazy prop, like maybe a Khalil via second or third round knockout, just a tiny little sprinkle. Might do something like that. But in terms, I also want to have something on Edmund Shabazi. I do think he wins the spot. I'm just kind of torn if I want to parlay him up and just take his straight money line, or take, like we talked about with the KO props. I do like those. I think there's good value in those. I just kind of want to see how much I want to put on those. Haven't really quite lined that up perfectly yet. And then I don't mind Fried Basharat by decision. I was considering this as a straight, just a single, putting it straight up. So I do like this. If you guys are considering it, I'm definitely going to have at least a quarter unit on this. I'm either going to do the Fried Basharat by decision quarter unit, or Chris Gutierrez plus 7.5 alternate spread for for a quarter of a unit. But I'm leaning towards the Fried Basharat. I'm most likely going to take that by decision, because I think the only other outcome of that would be Fried getting to submission, and in that case, the Chris Gutierrez plus 7.5 alternate line would miss either way. So it wouldn't really make a whole lot of a difference. So I do like that. And then finally, Punahele Soriano money line in a parlay. I do like that for his odds, minus 300. I thought about maybe parlaying it up with a Patchy Mix, maybe parlaying it up with Big Ank. I'm going to have something parlayed up, but nothing more than a half unit tops. Same with Punahele Soriano and Edmund Shabazian. I will say I'm not going over half unit with either of these guys. Not worth it to go heavier than that. I want to say that to you guys, make that clear. And then possible action, I'm considering a little something on Merab. I mean, he just seems unbeatable, and I feel like if I pass him up on this after seeing Umar was able to have so much success, and he had so much success in the grappling, and he outstruck him, I'm like, fuck, man. If I watched that fight go back, I'm like, if I saw that and the path was there, and Merab is probably just going to take that exact game plan, makes me nervous. But I'm like, I'm going back and forth on it. That's why I'm considering it. I just don't like the line. The line is too wide. If it was like a minus 200 line, a minus 250, even minus 300, where it probably should be, I would consider it a bit more. That's why I'm keep going back and forth on it. I need to get this video out. As of right now, I got nothing though. Gun to my head, I'm probably not going to play anything on that though, because I got some decent amount of money. Might be a good hedge spot, because the Corey Sandhagen plus 13.5, that might be good with a little Merab play. Kind of a win-win. Might have to do that. Might just parlay up Merab and Big Ank and call it a day. may have to do that. I'll think about that. If I add like anything in that, I'll let you guys know. But earlier, oh yeah, also if earlier bets go well, I also considering something small on Zalal via decision or Emmett plus 7.5. It's a bit risky though. I will say the value is not really there. It's more so just like risk it for the biscuit if you want to fuck around and find out. That's kind of where I'm thinking about that. I'm probably more likely to put Emmett plus 7.5 just because I'd rather root for that as opposed to rooting for Zalal to get a decision. Just kind of for fun of a bet. But anyway, guys, that does it for the bets, for the best bets breakdown. That does it for this video. I'm going to get this video out to you guys ASAP. I know it's getting late. That's why I need to get this out. I need to get the damn thumbnail up. Sorry, I was getting a text. But anyway, guys, I hope this video gave you guys some value. I hope you guys like it. Let me know in the comments, too, if you guys like this layout, too, this format that I'm trying to do where, like, I talk about different plays for each fight that stood out to me, things that I like, things that I want to talk about. If you guys like this style, let me know in the comments, and I'll do it again for future videos. But anyway, guys, I hope you found some value. Hope you like the bets. Good luck to all your guys' bets. Drop your best bets in the comments. You know, let me know what you guys are taking. Let me know what lines you guys like. And in the meantime, it's your boy Jacob from Topside MMA. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So, I'm out. Peace.